breaking the 8. Breaking the 8, we shall in 2024. The elephant is our symbol.
And tonight, latest scientific survey cast doubts on the ability of the New Patriotic Party to break the 8-year political cycle, as approximately 70% of Ghanaian voters say they do not believe the party can win the 2024 elections. In what appears to be more troubling for the NPP, some 44% of their own voters say breaking the 8 could remain a mere rhetoric. We'll bring you details shortly. Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo himself tonight is throwing all of these predictions out of the window.
Politically, for our party, the future is still bright. Himself, has wiped out our chances of being able to go forward in 2012. I don't think that.
And my name is Blessed Sogah. Top story, as always, is brought to you by Vodafone. Further together. And we know tonight that over the last few years, President Akufo-Addo and his governing New Patriotic Party have indicated on countless occasions their quest to set a new record in the next general elections in 2024. The NPP says it is focused on breaking the 8-year political cycle and retain political power for at least 12 years, although this has never happened in the history of Ghana's fourth democratic dispensation. The NPP leader is optimistic his party is on a course to change history.
An important step towards that victory is the work we're going to be doing today. Let us make sure that we elect the men and women who can hold us together, who can enable us to work together, and who will be able to provide the leadership for the party to be able, our mantra, breaking the 8. Breaking the 8, we shall in 2024. The elephant is our symbol. We shall win.
Can we all be upstanding on our feet? The elephant is our symbol. We are one.
Well, that was the last time, at least, that we got a sense from the president on what the NPP intends to do in the next general elections in 2024. Well, tonight, that claim has been subjected to some sort of a public opinion by a research-based organization, Global Info Analytics, which is painting a picture of what is likely to happen come 2024. Clearly, on the question of whether or not the NPP can break the 8, approximately 70% of voters do not believe that the NPP can win the 2024 election. So what's, first of all, accounting for these latest figures? And who do Ghanaians actually trust as the better manager of the economy? Joining me now is Isaac Kofi-Ajay, his data analyst with the Joy Research Desk. Kofi, let's start with the scope of this survey we are receiving.
First, we look at the sample size. So 5,661 voters from 75 constituencies were interviewed. And if you look at the confidence level, it's around 99% with 1.75 margin of error. So blessed respondents were selected randomly in the streets for the poll. And voters, party affiliation was the last question asked. And field interviews were conducted between 1st of October to 14th
so that
October
paints the picture as to how recent this is.
Absolutely.
But then the question on the minds of every Ghanaian is about breaking the 8. We've heard that from the president, and we just said the last time he said that when the NPP was electing its national officers. When it comes to that mantra, breaking the 8, we know what it connotes. The fact that the NPP is seeking to win the 2024 elections. That would make them go for a third term, which has never happened in the fourth democratic dispensation. So what's the research finding on breaking the 8?
So the researchers asked, respondent a simple question. Can the NPP break the 8? And 70% said no, the NPP cannot break the 8. 20% said yes, the party can break the 8. And 10% were indifferent. In this case, they had no opinion.
And then there's also a breakdown of respondents actually affiliated to the New Patriotic Party and their views on breaking the aid. It appears that the researchers also wanted to find from within the camp of the NPP,
Party
or at
affiliates.
least supporters, to find out what they also think about breaking the aid. Do we have a picture of what the NPP members or affiliates at least think about this mantra?
So if you look at the MPP's camp, 44% believe the party cannot break the 8. Additional 44% also believe the party can break the 8, whilst 12% says they are indifferent. If you look at NDC, 91% says MPP cannot break the 8. 4% of NDC respondents says that the party can break the 8. And 5% said that the MPP cannot break the 8.
But if we're looking at these figures, that means that there may be trouble for the NPP, right? Because they need the 40% at least to swell up the numbers in terms of getting majority of its sympathizers to believe even in the vision itself.
But if you look at the margin of error for this research and you see a 44%, it tells you that it looks, dire for the New Patriotic Party. But if you look at the floating voters, for instance, 69% of floating voters believe that the NPP cannot break the 8, while 16% of floating voters believe that the MPP can break the 8. 15% of floating voters also believe that they are indifferent and that the MPP may or cannot break the 8.
So what's interesting in this dynamics is that we are seeing elements of the economic performance come to play in the findings because it's even affecting the confidence rate or the ratings in some political appointees. For instance, they talk about Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who's been named in this research report, and of course linking him with some of the promises the NPP made on the economy. His ratings, as we understand, is also down, and that is also being linked to the performance of the cedi, for instance, issues relating to inflation. And we also do know that Ghanaians have been expressing their views on who may be the better manager of the economy. They've been doing all of this in this research. So let's take it from the very first step in terms of the economy. And let's also touch on some of the appointees who the public believe have not performed well in terms of handling the affairs of the economy, and that's got to do with Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for instance. Just give us a sense, not necessarily the figures as of now, of what people think about the Vice President and his ability to manage the economy.
Right, so people believe that the Vice President has somehow lost credibility in managing the economy, and if you look at between Bawumia and then Mahama, respondents believe that Mahama can be a better manager of the economy than Bawumia. And if you compare Bawumia also to Alan Tremantin, respondents believe that Alan Tremantin will be a better manager of the economy in 2024 than Bawumia.
So these are some of the issues being laid out in the report, as talking about the economy, talking about the NPP's chances of actually winning the next elections. But I want to just bring up that issue about the economy himself, because the one who many Ghanaians are, of course, predicting through this survey, and we're not saying that this survey will indeed prove what will happen in 2024, but it's giving us a sense of what Ghanaians think. The former President John Mahama himself has been speaking earlier today about the performance of the economy. He's lamenting why his successor, President Akufo-Addo, has not been able to deal with the economic challenges confronting the country.
The current state of our economy is terrible. We've never, in all our history, been in a place like this. And I think that it's the role of GJM, all journalists, to be even more vigilant at this time when the country is faced with sad, dire economic challenges. We raised this red flag that the direction in which the economy was going, we're going to crash. I talked personally about creative accounting. This finance minister was hiding huge liabilities and giving a rosy picture of the economy. We all need to come on board and see how we can salvage it. But the first step is the government should come clean and tell us what is the state of the economy. You must put everything on the table. And that's why I called for a national dialogue. I said, bring the brains together. I've been president before. It served me well. I called Century Forum. It didn't reduce my stature as president. All participants came, except MPP. They boycotted that Century Forum. But it got us a very good homegrown document, which eventually is what we took to the IMF. So by the time we went knocking on the doors of the IMF, we had our program ready. These people have gone to the IMF, not ready, no program, nothing. It's only now they've been able to put some program together in a non-transparent way. I haven't seen what is even in the program. I thought that they will hold consultations with the media, everybody, so that we all know what austerity we're going to go through, what sacrifices are we going to make, you know.
And so now we come to the ultimate question. Ghanaians have been asked as to who they believe can better manage the economy going forward into the 2024 elections. We have a verdict on that through this analytics poll that we have. Kofi Eje, what's the verdict on that?
So, Blazer, this is the second time this year that we've seen this poll being published. So the first one was in July this year. And when Ghanaians were asked, who do you trust to manage the economy better? In July, 17% of the respondents said Bawumia could manage the economy. But when this same poll was done in October, Bawumia lost his 17%. Now he has declined from 17% to 13%. So 13% of respondents believe now that Bawumia can manage the economy. If you move to Alan Tremantin, in July, 13% of the respondents believed that he could manage the economy. But in the October poll, 22% of the respondents now believe that he is probably the better manager of the economy. In terms of former President Mahama, in July, 55% of respondents believe that the former president could manage the economy in 2024. But when the poll was done in October, he is actually declined from 55% to now 54%.
Well, President Akufo-Addo is tonight also speaking about the future of his own political party, the NPP, in terms of breaking the aid. The president says the political future of the NPP remains bright. According to him, in spite of predictions that the NPP may suffer defeat due to the economic crisis we're facing today, Ghanaians will come to terms with the fact that they were right from the onset with the policies introduced by his government.
That's what I'm saying. I'm confident. Say, baby, we will find a solution to it. And in that solution, also between the fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy. We were right in identifying these things. We were right in looking at how we can achieve food security in Ghana. We were right in insisting on industrial development and expansion. And we're doing it. It's not as if we're just talking, but we're walking the talk. Politically for our party, the future is still bright. Himself, as it were, wiped out our chances of being able to go forward in 2012. I don't take that view. I believe that especially foundation you lay in the first term.
I see.
And we have a reaction coming through from the governing New Patriotic Party for you shortly. But there's also the internal dynamics to all of this as to how the NPP could fare going into the 2024 elections in terms of breaking the aid. Because the poll has gone as far as rating some of the likely candidates who may contest for the internal primaries in terms of leading the NPP when it comes to the presidential primaries. So, Kofi, let's get into that as well. There's the name of the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and also We have the Trade Minister, Alan Kojo-Tremati.
And Kennedy Japan as well.
Yes, that's the add-on in terms of changing the dynamics, because the report is also giving us a sense that Kennedy Japan may be pushing that internal primaries into a tight race, probably a tie between Alan Tremati and, of course, when we talk of Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as well. So what do we know about that?
So respondents were asked, who do you think can lead the NPP in 2024? In July, Bawumia had 33%. He has dropped from this 35% to now 31% in October. Alan Tremati has rather risen from 42% now to 44%. Kennedy Japan also has 14%. So that's the dynamic of it.
And so we are able to draw that connection that anytime we have the economic indicators dropping or not performing properly, the vice president also has his ratings dropping.
Absolutely.
And that's what we've been able to establish tonight. I'm grateful, Isaac Ofeje. Just stay with me. I want to bring in now Richard Ahengba, who's Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. Good evening to you, sir. Welcome to Top Story. Of course, the verdict is out now. Many say that the mantra of breaking the aid may only remain a mirage. The fact that your political party, which has been put to a test even before the 2024 elections, you have your own members, and about 70% of Ghanaians saying you may not be able to go beyond the 8-year tenure. What's your take on that?
Well, thank you. I was just saying that
Mr. Ahengba, are you with us? It appears that we've lost connection to the communications director for the governing New Patriotic Party, Richard Ahengba, who's been providing, of course, some explanation to this. There's also a need for you to hear all of that as well. But Kofi, I want us to also touch on Kennedy Japan, who is being talked about in that research report. The fact that he may be pushing the race into a breaker. But we'll get to all of that. Mr. Ahengba, if you can hear me, I was just asking about your initial reaction to the fact that 70% of Ghanaians believe you may not be able to break the aid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Just go ahead for us.
So there's an interruption. I think somebody is trying to call me. From
apologies for that. Yes.
Yeah. So I was just saying that you said a verdict, and I wasn't sure what verdict you're referring to. You're talking about the research publication from Global Info Analytics. Is that what you're referring to?
Precisely.
Yeah, that's by no means a verdict. I think we need to be clear about that. The particular finding you are referring to is the report that talks about the potential of the NPP to break the aid or not. And that you are suggesting that is conclusive, that the NPP cannot win the 2024 election. Is that a premise of the question?
Right from the onset, we indicated clearly that there's was a scientific research, at least putting your mantra to a test. The verdict, of course, in terms of what it is that this finding is bringing to bear, is what I'm putting before you, Mr. Ahengba.
Okay, very well. So first of all, like all research, research undertaking, there's a margin of error, and this finding, the 43%, really is not anything to conclusively say that this is a verdict. Now, and the question also was just a one-line question in a series of questions. So it's almost like piggybacking on a general research. So it was a concentrated research wherein you would want to know what is the reason for one to say that I don't think the NPP can win the 2024. So that finding is by no means conclusive. It's just a one-line question in a series of questions that is asking people. Now, if it was a focused research that has auxiliary questions to test the consistency of people's response. So if you say, I don't think MVP can bring the 8, then why do you think so? for people to assign reasons. That would be a more comprehensive discussion to be had. But
Well,
to
if
answer,
you're questioning what it is that you're saying, that it's a one-liner, that is not or may not be the entire picture in this research report. There's that some sort of consistency in terms of what Ghanaians think about the direction of the country. 77% of them believe we're headed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Over 70%
No,
of
no.
them believe that.
I agree. Hold on.
I mean,
Hold on.
breaking the eight mantra may not
Hold on.
happen.
Hold on, no. So there's a specific question that you're referring to, which is in the research. It says that people were asked, a certain percentage think that they don't believe the MPP can break the eight. I'm saying that if, in order for you to be conclusive, in the manner you want us to have this conversation to say it's almost a verdict, then you want a research that concentrated on that. So you almost do a regression to see what the correlations are, what are the basis for people saying that I don't think the party can break the eight or not. So this here may be an indication of people's feelings, but that feeling that you are measuring, you cannot be certain about it because you don't know what are the underlying factors for people to arrive at that decision. It could be that I think people can say that, okay, well, I don't know who is going to lead the MPP. Could it be Kennedy Japan? Could it be Dr. Mahmoud Baumia? Is it Dr. Kodedu Apreku? Is it Alan Chiramantin who is going to lead? So in that uncertain situation, people can give you an answer. So that's why I'm saying that.
And I'm grateful that you're raising that point because in spite of that, even all the three names, at least that we've heard of, the Vice President, Alan Chiramantin himself, and of course the likes of Kennedy Japan who've gone public to say will run for president, pitching them against another likely candidate in the NDC, John Mahama, all of them fall short in terms of marching up as to the confidence level Ghanaians have in who can better manage the economy. The belief is you may run out of options in terms of finding a suitable candidate to push the breaking the eight agenda. So it may never happen.
So I'm speaking to you as a researcher, right? Now, this question that we are referring to is only an indicative question that it was asked, and people were just telling that yes or no. But then, what are the underlying factors? The research didn't provide that. It didn't ask any follow-up question. There was no, normally, for you to have full confidence, you want to also see, to measure the consistency with regard to breaking the eight, because breaking the eight, if a research wants to measure that in order to reach a conclusive outcome to say that indeed the MPP is not going to be able to, or the MPP will break the eight, there must be a series of instrument questions that actually measure that particular item. But what you have here is just a descriptive data collected, yes or no, whether or not they can break. That is not definitive enough to have the conversation you want us to have, right? It just tells people's general opinion, but that opinion could be further explored, and then the outcome will be different.
I need to state also.
Hold on one second. Let me just hand up.
Right.
People.
Just go ahead, sir.
Also, on the same, if the EP had Baumia as their flag bearer, do you think they can break the eight? If Alan was the MPP flag bearer, do you think they can break the eight? So what you have here is just an indicative question, which does not give you a conclusive basis for the conversation you want us to have. I think that's what I want to outline for you.
Richard Ahengba, I'll be coming back to you because on the ballot paper, there will be two questions or options, even if we have so many candidates on the ballot. In terms of elections, the question was specific. Do you believe the NPP will win the 2024 elections? When you get to the polls, obviously the candidate may vary from the NPP candidate. So I'll come back to you as to what we should be looking at and what your party will be doing going forward to better your chances. But Dr. Richard Amakuba is also joining us tonight. Doc, you've listened to some of the findings, the fact that 77% of the persons who were asked here about the country's direction, they believe we're going in the wrong direction. How is are you getting to receive all of these reports that we're finding in this report?
Well, this is not very difficult to determine. When the party in power, especially since the leading guy, the president, is a leader of the party, when it becomes this unpopular, It's very easy to discern what's going on. You know the answer before us. That's the whole thing. But this research is unscientific. That's all that it is. It's unscientific. But unscientific researches are so important sometimes. It gives you an approximation. It's not exact. So when you say breaking the eight, you are at the same time you're saying the same thing as which party is more popular. That's all. Just a matter of how you coin it. But it is important. And if you want to follow up and do scientific, then you break it down and give more details. That's all. But this gives an idea, the direction we are going. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you indicate it is unscientific.
Do you share in the opinion that breaking the eight may be a difficulty for the NPP?
Yeah, if you're unpopular, but the NPP still has time, you see. It's not over. They still have time, but I don't see what NPP is supposed to do to change things. Let me give you this, what I saw. The World Bank and IMF has a program called Debt Service Suspension Initiative. This came about in 2020. It ran to 2021. For all countries that are in debt distress because of COVID, you can apply for it, and they will suspend your debt service, the interest, for example, that you're paying. That gives you room to manage your economy a little better. We never applied for that because to be able to qualify, your system must be transparent. They must know the debt you have. And of course, we didn't want to do that. All of these point in the wrong direction. So when people are saying that you can't break the eight, that's what they are saying. Besides, I don't see what are you going to use to break the eight anyway, hammer or picker. It is your performance that breaks whatever you want to break, not you yourself saying it. Because you are the only one going to vote for yourself. It is others who are going to vote, who will look at your performance, and based on that, they will break it for you. You don't have to break it yourself. So we say these things to show popularity and lack of popularity. That's all it is.
But then, Doc, just before I come back to Richard Ahiangba, I want you to deal with this for us, at least in a minute. Do we have any scientific research as to why, in the fourth democratic dispensation, no political party has been able to go beyond the 8-year cycle? Is there something scientific accounting for this?
Well, I haven't seen anything. It will be very difficult to come up with one. Besides, we haven't done this thing long enough to have this. You need a lot of consistency before you can draw conclusions. But the party goes 2 times. Rawlings to Atameo. Before NPP's really gone once before 8 years, and now it's not. You can't draw solid conclusions for just two appearances. You can't. And so all you're going to do is have approximation on scientific research. But it helps. It is a relatively young republic, so you're not going to be able to draw such solid conclusions from anything.
Okay. Well, Doc, thank you for your time. Richard Ahiangba, here's a leading or known figure of your political party, and I guess accounting for that 44% of your own members who say that you are unlikely to get political victory in 2024.
Well, I mean, you heard Dr. Mwakoba, and he was very clear that that this research is not conclusive. He went as far as to say it's unscientific. That's just simply what it is. It's an indicative, descriptive finding that suggests to you that people think this way or that way. It is nothing to really sit and explore because they find that. What perhaps would be a follow-up would be to say that to scientifically examine that. But even now, you can't do that because you don't have a candidate. What you'll be doing will be probability situations, which is very remote in assessing the chances of the MPP 2 years from today. So I think that it's premature to be having this conversation. And what Dr. Makuba just said to you before he went is to say that there is a performance basis for the election, which you cannot determine today because the environment you are in now is economic and people are worried in this environment. And in this kinds of situation, people will make certain decisions that they will not make if things improve. right? So what data you collect now will give you a certain information, but then that information cannot be true if conditions change in 2024. And where we sit now, I can tell you by the time we get ready or people get ready to make a decision going into the 2024 elections, conditions in this country would improve. Okay, that's the assumption I am operating with. So the data you are finding now is not conclusive by any measure, and to actually refer to what Dr. Makoba said, it is not scientific, and it has to be just an indication. And I don't think that this is any finding that we can hang our hats on, that it is
yeah,
a
he says you
determinate,
may not be able to break
definitive
the 8.
finding.
You didn't get that as well?
Sorry?
He says you may not be able to break the 8. You didn't get that part as well?
Well, so that Dr. Makuba's opinion would align with the finding of the data, which he himself describes to be unscientific, because he told you about performance, that if you break the 8, it will be a factor of your performance. And right now, maybe he's making the assessment to say that right now it's difficult to assess the performance of the government. But in 2024, when the performance in terms of the economic situation we're in improves, his opinion will change as much as everybody else who has answered that survey. Everybody's opinion will change when people get to make a decision in 2024.
Dr. Makuba, 30 seconds for you as we wrap up. It appears we've lost Dr. Makuba there. Thank you, Richard Ahyangba, Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. And